I'm so, so excited to know that I will be where Christ was, to be in the land that has held so much historical value for all of mankind. Shalom. I'm so excited to be able to do this podcast with you from Israel, the Holy Land, right? This has been a dream of mine my entire life. And a lot of you know my history. I grew up for a while in Saudi Arabia. I traveled throughout the Middle East. But I never had the opportunity to come to Israel. And I covered the war. I was covering the war zones in Afghanistan for a long period of time, was in Iraq. And every single time, Israel felt so elusive to me. I felt like it would just slip through my hands. And it was so sad because out of all the places I had traveled in the Middle East, sorry, Saudi Arabia and everyone else, it was Israel where my heart felt like it needed to come. And maybe it's because, you know, my dad would tell me all these incredible stories, or I'd read the Bible and the Old Testament. And, you know, I would think about what life was like here so long ago. And because I grew up in the Middle East, I was familiar with the foods and the sounds and the smells and just the beauty that this land affords its people. And it's hard for people who've never traveled here to understand that. And it's interesting because Tom Trento, who is part of this amazing trip, it's so you all know, and I'm going to go into more details as we move further into the podcast, but it's part of the Defend the Border group that I'm with. And we are with Tom Homan, former Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE director under President Trump, also worked under many other presidents, President Obama as well. And he is going to be here and we're going to be working together. And I'm also here with my friend, Victor Avila, who worked with Immigration and Customs Enforcement and who survived a vicious, brutal attack in Mexico by the cartels on his vehicle. They took the life of an agent that he was with. And he almost lost his own life in that battle. He is here with me, and I'll be sure to do some posts with him on Instagram and Twitter, as well as for the Sara Carter Show. So I think those are all very important aspects of telling you why we are here. And I'm going to go into those details because we have a nation to save. You and I together have to be on the offensive at saving our nation. And that's something that I talked to Victor about today and with some others, Ed, another friend of mine who I met just today. I feel like we're friends connected by the same common goal, right? To save America and to work with our partners in Israel to ensure that our nations are strong. I'm going to be going to so many interesting, cool sites. Not only will I be going to the border, meeting with Israeli Defense Forces, talking about the history of Israel and the changes that have happened here, but I'll also be visiting many of the holy sites. I'll talk a little bit about that and just soaking up all this really awesome, cool Israeli culture. It's just absolutely incredible. And I'm going to fill you in on all of those great things, the food, the delicious spreads. And I mean, by the way, can't get better food than I'm getting right here in Tel Aviv. I'll tell you how it goes as I move throughout the country, but it's just phenomenal, phenomenal food and phenomenal people. And I'll be telling you about all those cool things, and I'll be getting up to what's happening here in Israel as far as politics and everything else. But first, I want to tell you about Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold is a company that you can trust. It's a company that sponsors my show, The Sara Carter Show. So I want to give them a big thank you. But I also want to thank them for being such an honorable company, for being such a great company. Allegiance Gold has some of the highest ratings in the industry, 5 stars with TrustLink, AAA rated with the Business Consumer Alliance, and they have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Right now, you can get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait, call or click today. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, no H, or go to protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks, and we've seen the utter disaster that has happened here because of that in the United States. But we can certainly prepare our families. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, or protectwithsara.com. So let me tell you a little bit about this trip. I was actually in Mar-a-Lago doing an event there, probably at the early part of this year or late last year. I'm trying to get my time frame together. And Tom Homan was there. For all of you who know, he's constantly battling the Department of Homeland Security, which he was a part of, and many other administrations currently right now, to tell the truth and get the truth out about what is happening on the U.S.-Mexico border, on our southern border. In fact, he is testifying. He's arriving late to Israel because he's been called to give testimony up on Capitol Hill in an effort to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, who has failed to do his job. It's a dereliction of duty on the part of President Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas, what is happening at our border, and the loss of sovereignty, and frankly, the dangerous national security challenges we face because of what they have done at the U.S.-Mexico border, basically leaving it wide open. So I'm at Mar-a-Lago, I'm at an event, and Tom Homan and Tom Trento come by, and just great American patriots. And they're telling me about this trip to Israel, and they're saying, Sara, you got to come on this trip with us. And I say, it's so hard, guys. You know, it's hard for me to plan that far ahead. But the more they talked about it, and the fact that I've always wanted to be here, it just felt like the right thing. It felt like God was guiding me in this direction, or the universe, and saying, you know, you need to go. You need to go to Israel. And so I made a commitment right there and then, didn't even call my husband, didn't call anyone, just said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I am coming to Israel. I'm coming here from June 8th through the 20th. And I want to learn, and I want to share that information, not only with all of you, but also with our lawmakers as well, and build those relationships, those necessary relationships that we need on a foreign policy level with our allies here in Israel. And I consider them my true brothers and sisters in the fight to save Western civilization. I mean, I really, really do believe that. And so I'm here with great patriots like Victor Avila, Chris Burgard, Tom Homan. Chris Burgard's a movie director and filmmaker who I have known since I was a young reporter covering the border. And so I'm just very excited. Tom Trento, Ronnie Wexler, the Jew Exit gals from Florida who are here as well, and many families. And we have an incredible itinerary actually planned ahead. I also plan on getting baptized again here in Israel. I just want to throw that out in case I forget. I'm still very tired. I've got like this kind of jet lag issue that I'm dealing with, and tomorrow should be a great day because I think I'll be over that hump. So let me tell you a little bit about what's happening here in Israel, a little bit about my trip, give you some insight. By the time you hear this, I will be probably at the Sea of Galilee. I'm so excited to know that I will be where Christ was, to be in the land that has held so much historical value for all of mankind, not just the Israeli people, but for all of us. This is the convergence of so many incredible moments in history, from the Roman Empire to the 1967 war, to the reestablishment of an Israeli state with Golda Meir being the first prime minister, and the Jewish people having their land back, but so much rich beautiful history, a spiritual awakening for humanity. It's here. It's in these lands, in these incredible places where civilizations were first built, where man came away from being just a hunter-gatherer, tribal, Bedouin, traveler, gypsy, to establishing like the very first city-states, the Phoenician alphabet, mathematics and science, and the curiosity about who we are as a people, and God himself, right? The epicenter of what changed the world, Christianity, right? And the monotheistic beliefs of Judeo-Christian beliefs, and what we do with that, and how we take that, and how we've made our lives so different than I think we could have ever imagined because of that. And that's about Western civilization. And that's about protecting our values and our people and our children. And that's why the Israeli government works so hard to protect its own borders and its sovereignty, because it understands one thing very clearly that many Americans have forgotten, that in a blink of an eye, you can lose everything. The Jewish people felt that. They understood that. They know that. Those that are here, that live with that every single day, and I know there's a division here amongst the right and the left, even here in Israel. But for the Jewish people, they truly understand what it is like and what it was like to have everything pulled out from underneath them, to be targeted because of who they are as a people, because of the beautiful nature of their culture and their religion. And we saw that in World War II. And the Jewish people never again will allow that to happen. Here in Israel, I know that. So border security is very important. It is the most important when it comes to protecting this land, whether it's from the Iron Dome or the Israeli Defense Forces on the front line of the border, right? They understand that they have an enemy that has actually said on Twitter, and you've all seen that as well, the Iranians want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. They are anti-Semitic. They want to destroy and kill all the Jews. This nation, this beautiful nation that is so eclectic, that has so much diversity. I don't think a lot of people realize it's not just Jewish people here in Tel Aviv. It's Arabs. It's a mixture of people from all over the world. They even have a very diverse government, which is representative of all the people here. And by the way, when I got here, it was like the biggest gay pride celebration, anywhere in the world was right here in Tel Aviv, actually. But most of the Jews here that I talked to, most of the people that live here, the Israelis, they were like, yeah, we're not gay. We're just out there. It's like a big party. But people do come from all over the world here. And the reason I bring that up, and the reason I'm setting up this kind of visual for you, is so that you understand in America that we have forgotten how important it is, and our lawmakers certainly have, but I believe they're doing this on purpose, how important it is for our nation to protect its sovereignty and its borders. We are so close to losing everything. We've seen wide open migration. Michael Yon talked about that in the past podcast. Todd Benson also talked about this. We've seen a migration to our country that we've never seen in the past, and one that fails to adhere to any law. Just a wide open border where people are not getting checked. There's no national security checks, putting everybody's life at risk, and a government run by President Biden that is derelict in its duty to protect us, because they're actually pushing and promoting that. So as I travel to the Sea of Galilee, and then I go to the Israeli border. I'm going to this area it's interesting because it was the most guarded fence. A number of years ago, it was called the Good Fence. It is an area Christian Lebanese and members of South Lebanon Christian militias had free access to enter Israel during Lebanon's civil war. And this fence area was able to sustain supply and allow Christians access to medical centers in the region. It's how the Israelis set everything up when Lebanon was completely falling apart. We're going to be doing that. I'm going to be traveling to Samaria. I'm going to visit the Mount of Olives. I'm going to be meeting with leaders here to talk about border security and see what we can take back to our lawmakers and hopefully knock some common sense into them. Here's really an interesting part of the trip. I'm going to be going to the Golan Heights. We're going to be visiting Marom Golan and the Valley of Tears. This place was also the site of the most heroic fight between the Israeli Defense Forces and the Syrian army during the Yom Kippur War. We're also going to do a trip to the border at a place called, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but it's Kunitra or Kunitra border. It's the border crossing between Israel and Syria. So in 2015, I was on the Syrian border in Iraq. This time I'm going to be able to see the Syrian border from Israel. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And this is where Israel managed to assist many of the wounded on the Syrian side, of course, during the upheaval after the Arab Spring and during the Syrian civil war. This border crossing has been fought for and has changed hands a number of times, like apparently between the Assad army and the Syrian rebels. And of course, you know, Israel, like us, is consistently on the watch for terrorist groups that would want to target our nations. We're going to end that Golan visit with a visit to Har Ben Tal and the Israeli IDF bunkers that are overlooking the entire valley below and the Syrian city. So we'll be sitting on top through the bunkers, viewing the city of Kunitra below. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably not, but it's Kunitra below in Syria. We're going to make our way to the Tigris. We're stopping to the Sea of Galilee, where I hope that is where I will be rebaptized again, and the Jordan Valley, and of course, meeting with senior officials and being able to speak with them. I think this is going to be a really great part of the trip. We're going to head also to the north, where we'll make our way to a border kibbutz. We're going to be meeting with Northern Command civilian liaisons, because here in Israel, everybody serves in the military, which I think is very important, all the young for the most part. And we're going to be also meeting with civilian liaisons for an account of the southern border with Lebanon, which a lot of you know is controlled by Hezbollah militias, and they pose a very significant danger to Israel. Over the past few months, I think you've seen the news that Israel has been targeted by Hamas, by Hezbollah. We've seen the rockets. We've seen the Iron Dome light up on our news channels, and Israel obviously repelling those missiles from their communities in an effort to protect their citizens. So as beautiful as this area is, it is still an area long entrenched in war between Muslims and of course Jews. And there is constantly a heightened sense of tension here. We are also going to the Dead Sea. We are going to the Temple Mount and to the Mount of Olives. I think I might have brought that up. We'll be visiting the Jewish quarter. We'll be visiting all of the most important places in Jerusalem. Of course, religious important places that where Christ suffered and died on the cross. And of course, speaking to religious leaders in Jerusalem, and some who I hope to bring on as guests in future podcast episodes. Anyways, this is just going to be great. We're going to culminate this trip with a visit to the 9/11 Living Memorial Plaza, which is located in the Arazim Valley of Jerusalem. It's a plaza that was built on 5 acres and is there to remember and honor the victims of the September 11th attacks. Again, our bond with our Israeli brothers and sisters in the same battle to protect and save Western civilization, right? And during that whole time, I will be swimming in these beautiful waters. I'm going to go out there and float in the Dead Sea. Why not? I hear there's a lot of salt. I won't even be able to sink. It will be perfect. And for just a little bit of history on that, we're going to Masada as well. I am so excited about that trip. And for those of you who don't know what Masada was in history, this was the last pocket of insurrection in the Jewish rebellion against the Roman Empire. It is where 960 men, women, and children defied the Romans and fought for 3 years after the destruction of Jerusalem. Like, they held ground for 3 years. We're going to be visiting King Herod's palace, the synagogue, and what it was considered a very sophisticated water irrigation system that is, listen to this, 2,000 years old. I am so excited for Ronnie Wexler to give us this tour, to meet all of these wonderful people. And I want you to feel as excited about this trip. You want to know why? Because I want each and every one of you and your families, and I plan on bringing my children here very soon and my husband, and I want us all as a family here. I want you all to consider coming to Israel. I want you all to consider making this an important part of your, trips of life, right? Your bucket list, and bring your family here and pray for our nation, no matter where you're at. If you're in the United States or here, I tell you what's happened to President Trump, and we'll talk about this later, has been just devastating for me. What's happened to the American people, what is happening to our country. And I was so back and forth on, should I be in the United States right now? Should I be here? I'm grateful to God that I am here, because I feel closer to God here right now. And I want God to hear my prayers. I want God to listen to all of our prayers and to protect our beautiful country and to protect our beautiful world and this beautiful planet from what appears to be a very dangerous future, and one that I hope doesn't come to fruition. You guys, that's all we can do, is say prayers and help one another. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you so much for being a part of my life. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, no matter what you're doing, playing with the kids, working in the office, taking a drive. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. Shalom. Thank you for being with me. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, and folks on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless this beautiful holy land of Israel. And God bless our families and the great state of Texas.